One of the confusing concepts in JavaScript is that here functions are objects. So this circle function we have here is actually an object. Don't believe me? Let me show you. So circle dot, look, these are all the members of this circle function or circle object. So the purple icons are methods like call, bind, and apply, and the blue icons are properties. So let's take a look at a few of these members in the console. Here in the console, circle dot name, that returns the name of this function. Circle dot length returns the number of arguments. Now earlier in the last lecture, I told you that every object in JavaScript has a constructor property, and that references the function that was used to create that object. Now here's the interesting part. Who do you think created this object? Let's have a look. So circle dot constructor. So here we have another built-in constructor called function. And when we declare a function using this syntax, internally, JavaScript engine will use this function constructor to create this object. Let me show you. So I'm going to define a constant called circle1 to separate from our circle. Set it to new function. Now here our function requires one parameter, radius. So we add that here as a string. Now as the second argument, I'm going to pass the code inside of this function. So to break it up into multiple lines, I'm going to use the backtick character and then simply copy all this code and put it here. So when we declare a function internally, it's represented like this. Now we can call this circle1 just like calling our circle function. So we can create a circle object by newing up circle1 and pass 1 as the radius. Save the changes. Now in the console, let's log circle. Look, it's a real circle object with these two members. Now let's take a look at a couple of methods that are available in our functions. So I'm going to delete all this code. Circle dot, here we have this call method. And with this, we can call a function. Look at the arguments. The first argument is this argument. Here we need to pass an empty object, and this will reference this object that we pass here. Okay? Now after that, we add our arguments explicitly. So here we have one argument, we pass 1. If we had multiple arguments, we would pass them explicitly like this. Okay? So this expression is exactly like expression on line 11. When we use the new operator, this new operator will internally create an empty object and pass that as the first argument to the call method. And this object will determine the context for this. So this will reference this object. Earlier, I told you that if you don't use the new operator, this by default will point to the global object, which is window. So if I want to rewrite this expression in this way, instead of passing an empty object, I would pass window. Of course, we don't want to do this. I'm just explaining to you what happens under the hood. So let's revert this back. So the first argument here specifies the target of this. Okay. Now we have another method called apply. It's exactly like the call method. With this, we can call a function, but instead of passing all the arguments explicitly, we pass them in an array. So this is useful if you already have an array somewhere else in your application and you want to pass that array as the second argument to the apply method. So this is the takeaway. In JavaScript, functions are objects.